Training is done. The hay, excuse me, that was Jessie.
Very rude.
The hay is in the barn. We've finished our complete training cycle for Chicago other than the taper right now. And we're in a position now to share with you all of our data, all of our points that we look at to make sure we're going in the right direction, and just being able to look into everything to know whether you're ready. Hopefully we're all ready, right?
And we want to give a massive shout out to Soar, who are sponsoring this video, all our lead up and our race videos for Chicago. And we get to wear the best kit in the business.
Yeah, and we couldn't do it without you, so thank you. Let me tell you, we've probably had one of our best, if not the best training cycle ever. Fingers crossed for the actual race. But what do we look for when we're looking back in terms of our data, the things that we've changed, or any signs of progress? For us, obviously, the bulk of marathon training is easy running, so it starts there. All right, let's talk easy runs first, because that's the easiest bit to talk about. Harder to measure, because when you go on easy runs, as anyone knows, you could run at any given pace as long as it's in zone 1 and 2. So in terms of actually seeing metrics to prove that we're making progress, we're relying more on our long runs and we're relying more on our lactate threshold runs. However, one massive change that I made in this cycle on our easy runs is this bad boy. Much more reliance on a treadmill. The reason is actually, there's two reasons. They're pretty simple though. The first one is, when you're in a country that makes you feel like you're going to explode from inside out every time you run outside, it's sometimes quite nice to just pop the air conditioning on, pop the fan on over there, and just run at an easy pace and it feel easy, which is quite rare over here. So a lot more of those were good for the mind for me, really, and Mary every week. But the other thing is, because again it's so hot and in our marathon long runs, not really able to do kind of marathon paced efforts or hot spots, if you like, because you can't recover after them because of the heat. Here, every Thursday, all I was doing is getting on the treadmill, and for the most part, I was doing easy with some marathon-paced efforts within those runs, and that allowed me to feel confident I could hit those paces in a temperate climate, but also it was just a nice way of being able to hit marathon pace without really feeling like you're way over in the red zone. So every Thursday, pretty much, we would get on the treadmill and we would do a marathon-paced effort or an easy run. Even my split runs, I might wake up in the morning at kind of 5 a.m, do 10k and then my 5k later in the day, all on the treadmill. Easy runs on a Saturday even on the treadmill, and it just gave me a bit better balance. I was finding myself less dehydrated and less exhausted after each run, and I think that made a great start. That's a really great platform to jump off of when you then start thinking about, the lactate threshold sessions and the long runs, because they're going to be outside. Okay, let's talk about track, because actually that's where I think we've made the most progress and it's the most interesting results, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's been the most different thing we've done compared to other marathon blocks for me.
Yeah, very true, because in the previous marathon blocks, what we didn't really focus is on hard threshold efforts. Yeah. What we did on the track in previous blocks we would do marathon paced efforts.
Yeah, and around marathon pace.
Yeah, it's probably lactate threshold 1, but it's not lactate threshold 2, so we kind of neglected that harder discomfort work that allows you to run faster for longer. So this was really interesting, because if we go all the way back to our first kind of session, it wasn't actually on a track, it was the 1600 repeats in Mary's hometown, right? So we did 1600. Let me read you the splits here, or a flavour. So all of these are a flavour, they're not like the whole thing.
I remember this session being so hard.
My kilometres at that point, I was kind of running at 340 and my heart rate was 176, so it's just below threshold. And Mary's was 423 for a heart rate of 178, and they were 1600s, right?
Yeah, that was off the back of my injury, and I'd lost so much fitness, and it felt like such a struggle.
Yeah, so even in a temperate climate like the UK, we were struggling to recover and our heart rate was going high. Fast forward to the last set of 1200s we did, I was running kilometers at 328 for a heart rate of 167. So it's like almost 10 beats per minute lower, and what's that math? So 12 seconds per kilometre faster was my last set of 1200s. And Mary, you were doing 402, so you were like 20 seconds faster for 10 beats per minute lower, 168. So we'll put the comparisons up on screen, probably in the sky here, just so that you can see just how unreal that progress is. But then 1 kilometre repeats, which was even further down the line. It was like one of the last sessions we've done. I was running 324 a kilometre for a heart rate of 176. So heart rate did go back up, but I was running 324s and comfortably.
Yeah.
You were running 348 for kilometres. Not all of them, but like that's just, as I say, that's a flavour, right? And your heart rate was 168, so the same as when you were doing the 1200s and 10 beats per minute below.
And I can't tell you how much smoother, more comfortable, more stronger I felt. Like, this has been my most significant progress in all the sessions.
Yeah, and then if we just quickly touch on the 800 repeats, obviously it wasn't a whole kilometre, but the pace, I was running them at 319 per kilometre for a heart rate of 175. So again, just getting faster, you can see the benefits. You ran one at 337 per kilometre pace, 175 heart rate. And that was kind of like the last session we did last week. So
yeah. Surprised myself.
When you look at that and you actually take the time to go back and delve into the data, it's super encouraging in terms of how our threshold sessions have benefited us and how we do feel faster. We're able to run at higher paces.
Yeah, and if you don't spend the time looking back at the numbers, you might miss out on how much progress you've made, and it's such a good feeling 2 weeks out from the race to see that growth and that progress.
So the track sessions for us have been super beneficial this time round, something we'll definitely carry on with when we train for marathons again.
For sure, love them.
Before we touch on any of the other runs, however, or the types of runs, I will just quickly, because I talk about it quite a lot, touch on strength work. This is Mary's kettlebell, by the way, rather than mine, but what we've changed in this training block has probably been the most significant aspect of our entire training in terms of improvement, and that is we've kind of got rid of generic-y workouts. I'm just going to put this down, where you use resistance bands or kettlebells or dumbbells, and we went through a process of being tested, finding out where our strengths and weaknesses are, and then having targeted exercises in order to address those weaknesses. So for us, I've added in, and Mary's added in, a lot more mobility work every single day, and then I've got targeted strength exercises, some for home and some for the gym, that I can work on. And let me tell you what it has led to, and it is the most unbelievable thing, is for the first time in 2 years I'm waking up in the morning without Achilles discomfort, and that is a game changer. Forget the training, I'm training pain-free as well, but that's the main thing. So it really has worked, and it has been a pivotal part on why we've had so much high quality training in this entire training cycle. But you want to know about the runs and the progress? This is probably the cornerstone, isn't it, of marathon training, is the long runs and having a look at the evolution of how we go and our progress.
Yeah, and we're filming it from our long run location, so we're on a university campus. It's got a 10 or 11k closed loop.
Or 5k or whatever you want, Kay.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk through, like, how have you felt like the long runs have gone? And we've done 6 long runs, gaining in distance, and there's some really interesting data.
Yeah, I feel like none of them have really overly phased me. I've just taken one at a time. I haven't been doing hotspots or marathon pace just because of the heat here, so I've been really using them to build my aerobic fitness and try and keep my heart rate in zone 2. So they've felt more chilled.
Yeah.
And I've felt pretty strong, like some better than others, but generally I've been in a pretty good place with them, I would say.
When we started to kind of dial it up and do 23 kilometers, for example. So let's talk about me first then. So I went from an average, I'll just put these up on the screen so you can see them, but look at my averages. I've gone from 431 a kilometre to 427 to 418, jump up to 424, but that's because I've gone 8 kilometres further on that run, and then 417, 414. So a real evolution of pace, and the heart rate has remained pretty much standard. So you can see the heart rate hasn't really changed. So I've got faster, heart rate hasn't escalated. Mary, you're more stable. So you can see you've gone 459, 458, 55, 455, 501, all around the same.
Yeah.
But the heart rate is coming down. You look at that last one, 153 for the 5 minute kilometers.
And I can just add, I just did a long run, well, it was half marathon, but heart rate 158, but pace 448. So a jump today in pace, which feels good 2 weeks out.
And again, you look back at the data in order to look at the progress you're making, because you can be fooled by having one bad run thinking you're not making that progress. But when you view it over the scope of the whole training cycle, it's pretty clear that we're making good progress towards Chicago. All we got to do now, Mary, is chill. Hi. Is it cold, Mary?
Yes.
We're here to talk about recovery and how we've taken this bit seriously in this training cycle. So whilst Mary tries to concentrate in the ice bath, I might chip in, but might not. This is a simple one, really. The way that we've prioritised our recovery is a lot more of these. We've been getting into a rhythm.
Really into them.
Yeah, we're really into them. You okay?
This is the nicest ice bath because I feel like you got your arm around me.
I am kind of hugging you from outside. And the other things that we've done is that we've made sure that we do the leg compressors, we foam roll when we can. Lots of things that promote recovery, but I think the biggest change we've made is going to bed earlier, just making sure that we're getting at least 8 hours in bed, if not 9 hours. So whereas we used to go to sleep at like 10 till 6, now it's 9 till 6. And I think that just that extra hour has made quite a lot of difference. So our lives are really very much work, run, sleep. But
we love it.
It's contributed to such an effective and such a good training cycle that we can't really complain, right?
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Cold, but happy. This is so refreshing. If you haven't done an ice bath, get in amongst it.
That is really cold in there. And finally, one of the biggest changes for me was that I changed the amount of days that I ran in the week from 5 to 4. Whilst you remained running on a Wednesday, I switched that for a bike ride and tried to do 1 or 2 bikes a week, because I just knew that my legs couldn't really make it. But your legs were okay through this whole training block, right?
We've made it.
We have made it. So now all there is left to do is taper, get to Chicago, get to the start line, and get to the finish line. And that's in 2 weeks' time, and we're very excited. So the next video will be all of the lead up, all of the travel, race preparation, expo, how we're going to execute the race. I'll be honest with you, Mary, I'm pretty surprised we got here in the shape that we're in. So,
still got 2 weeks to go.
I know. Let's see what happens on race day.
Do you know what?
What?
I think we've got time for one more ice cream.